If you ever hear someone knocking on your door in the dead of night, let me give you some advice. Don't answer it. It was the knocking that woke me up. 3 sharp raps, spaced evenly apart, cutting through my half-asleep haze like a hammer on metal. I just lay there for a moment, frozen, trying to shake off the fog in my head and figure out what was going on. Finally, I managed to haul myself out of bed. My eyes flicked over to the bedside clock. 3:15 a.m. Who the heck would be knocking at this hour? I muttered to myself. I didn't have any close friends, and my family, well, there wasn't anyone left to come by. Maybe it was someone in trouble, someone who needed help. That was the only reason I could think of for someone to knock at this time of night. I opened my bedroom door and made my way downstairs, my feet shuffling against the floor as I headed toward the front door. That's when I noticed it. The knocking hadn't stopped, kept going, steady as a metronome. 3 knocks, a pause of about 3 seconds, and then 3 more knocks, over and over again. It almost sounded mechanical, like a recording. That realization sent a shiver through me. My gut told me something wasn't right, and I slowed my steps, trying to move as quietly as possible. When I reached the door, I leaned in and squinted through the peephole. Knock, 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 but all I could see was pitch-black darkness. My hand found the porch light switch and I flipped it on. Nothing changed. It was still black as night out there, as if the bulb hadn't even turned on. Is the light busted? I thought, my pulse quickening. Then a chilling thought crossed my mind. What if someone was deliberately blocking the light? Not even the faint glow of the street lamp was visible through the peephole. Knock, knock, knock. Hello? I stammered, my voice barely louder than a whisper. Is someone out there? Do you need help? Knock, knock, knock. Hey, if you don't stop that, I'm gonna call the cops. I shouted, trying to sound tougher than I felt. But the knocking didn't stop and no one answered. Sweat prickled at my forehead. What if it was someone who needed help? Maybe someone too hurt or scared to say anything. Could I really ignore that possibility? But the blocked peephole still didn't sit right with me. Maybe they were slumped against the door frame, too weak to move? Still, something felt off. I'm gonna open the door now, all right? I called out, my voice shaking. Knock, knock, knock. If the person on the other side heard me, they didn't give any sign. I unlocked the deadbolt and slid back the latch. My hand hovered on the doorknob for a second as I took a deep breath. Then I swung the door open. Nothing. No one was there. Just darkness stretching out in front of me. I stepped out onto the porch, completely confused. What in the world was going on? And that's when it happened. That's when I was attacked. A big guy, or no, not a guy at all. A thing shoved me face first onto the ground. It knocked the wind right out of me, leaving me dazed and gasping for air. Before I could make sense of what was happening, the creature flipped me over, and what I saw froze my blood solid. I let out a scream louder than anything I'd ever managed before. This thing stood tall, towering over me like something straight out of a nightmare. Its face had this weird pale glow, but its sunken, pitch-black eyes were what truly rattled me. They stared straight into me, like they were peeling back layers of my soul. Its limbs were freakishly long and skinny, but somehow rippled with inhuman strength. The creature's skin was this ashy black color, almost like it soaked up the light around it, leaving everything else darker. And that face, oh God, that face, twisted and hideous. Its lips pulled back into a cruel, toothy grin that showed off sharp, jagged teeth. I wanted to scream again, to kick, punch, or do something, anything, but it held me down like I was a bug pinned under a rock. Couldn't move an inch. You shouldn't have done that, it said, its voice low and raspy, like the groan of a door hinge that hadn't been oiled in decades. It leaned closer, pressing down harder on my chest. You really shouldn't have opened that door, but now you've let me in. Its breath hit me, cold and awful, reeking of death and rot. My stomach churned, and I thought I might throw up. What are you? I stammered, the words barely coming out. My heart pounded so hard I thought it had burst right out of my chest. Oh, you want to know what I am? Sneered, pressing down even more. I could feel my ribs straining under the pressure. Who I am or what I am doesn't matter. All you need to know is, you made a mistake. A big one. You invited me in. Its words dripped with malice, every syllable like it was savoring my terror. I tried to push back against it to get free, but it was like trying to shove a mountain. The harder I fought, the weaker I felt. My arms gave out completely, falling limp at my sides, useless as wet noodles. And then it started. The thing leaned in and began eating me. Its jagged teeth tore into my skin like I was made of paper. Every bite sent bolts of pain shooting through my body as I felt bones snap and flesh rip. The metallic tang of blood filled the air, mixing with the sound of its chewing. I tried to scream, but all that came out was a wet gurgle. Blood pooled in my throat, choking me as the thing kept feasting. The panic was worse than the pain. Waves of pure terror crashed over me, drowning out any shred of rational thought. And the thing, it seemed to enjoy it, like my fear was just as nourishing as my body. As it devoured me, it seemed to grow bigger, its hideous form looming larger over me with every bite. My vision blurred. My strength faded. The pain dulled into a cold numbness as I started slipping into darkness. But just as everything went black, I heard it again. Knock, knock. I woke up gasping, bolting upright in my bed. My throat burned like I'd been screaming for hours. I was drenched in sweat, my heart hammering in my chest like it was trying to escape. My eyes darted around the room, taking in the dim shapes of familiar furniture. It was my bedroom, all right, but the nightmare still clung to me like smoke I couldn't shake. Instinctively, I reached for my neck, half expecting to find torn skin or a bloody mess. But there was nothing. No cuts, no bruises, no sign I'd been attacked. My pulse thudded steady under my fingers, as if nothing had happened. And yet, knock, knock. The sound hit me like a gunshot. My body jerked, and I tumbled out of bed, knocking over my bedside table. The lamp and clock went crashing to the floor, scattering everything around me. I scrambled to my knees, my heart in my throat. Could it be real? Had that thing followed me here? Was it back? A sickening thought wormed its way into my mind. I grabbed the clock off the floor, my hands trembling. The glowing red numbers confirmed my worst fear. 3:15. The same time. Knock, knock. The sound rattled in my head, louder and more menacing than before. I stumbled backward, nearly tripping over myself. My legs hit the edge of the window, and I caught myself just before toppling out. At this height, the fall would have broken every bone in my body. Panic set in. My mind raced, trying to make sense of it all. Was this real, or was I still trapped in the nightmare? Knock, knock. That damned knocking. It wouldn't stop. It was in my dream, or maybe this was the dream. I couldn't tell anymore. Thoughts raced through my head, each one crazier than the last as I tried to make sense of what was happening. Knock, knock. Wait a second. Something was off. The knocking, it wasn't the same. The rhythm had changed. Before, it was 3 knocks with a 3-second pause. Now, it was 2 knocks followed by a 2-second pause. Knock, knock. Yeah, it was definitely different. And not just different, it was louder. Knock, knock. Then it hit me, and I nearly lost my stomach right there. The knocking, it wasn't coming from outside anymore. It was coming from inside the house. Knock, knock. Panic gripped me like a vice. What do I do? What can I do? My thoughts were spinning, but all I could hear was that damned knocking, pounding in my head like a drumbeat, drowning out any sense I had left. I had to run. I needed to get out of here. If I stayed, I knew how this would end. I'd end up just like before. But how was I supposed to escape? From the sound of it, the knocking was coming from the hallway door, the one right across from my bedroom. I reached for my phone, which had fallen to the floor during all the chaos. My hands fumbled as I grabbed it, and my heart sank when I looked at the screen. No signal. No way to call for help. Could I fight it? Could I buy myself enough time to make a run for it? My eyes scanned the room for anything I could use as a weapon. Knock, knock. My gaze landed on an old baseball bat leaning in the corner. It was the one my dad gave me for my 13th birthday. It wasn't much, but it'd have to do. I moved slowly, creeping across the room and grabbing the bat by the handle. The weight of it felt good in my hands, but it didn't do much to steady my nerves. Every step toward the door felt like I was walking straight into my grave. Knock, knock. Taking a deep breath, I gripped the doorknob and turned it, easing the door open as quietly as I could. My whole body was tense, expecting the creature to spring out at me any second. Knock, knock. The hallway was empty, but the sound was louder now, echoing from the door just ahead of me. My heart thudded in my chest like it was trying to claw its way out. Knock, knock. Could I really do this? Could I open that door, knowing what might be waiting on the other side? I didn't have much choice. I raised my hand, moving slowly so the creature wouldn't sense me. Sweat dripped down my face as I gripped the doorknob. With every ounce of strength I had, I yanked the door open and swung the bat as hard as I could. Crack. The bat shattered on impact, splintering into 2 pieces. The force of my swing sent me off balance, and I hit the floor hard, sprawling out in the dark. Then I saw it, that awful, familiar figure. It loomed over me, just barely visible in the dim light. Tisk, TSK, TSK, it said, shaking its head like it was scolding a child. You're gonna have to try a lot harder than that. Before I could even scramble to my feet, the creature grabbed me by the front of my shirt with one massive hand. It lifted me like I weighed nothing and hurled me down the stairs. I crashed at the bottom, the impact knocking the air out of my lungs. Pain shot through me as I gasped for breath, lying there helpless. The sound of its slow, deliberate footsteps echoed as it made its way down the stairs. My whole body trembled as it came closer. Stay back, I shouted, trying to push myself up. My back hit the wall as I struggled to move away. Or what? It sneered, its voice dripping with malice. What are you gonna do to me? It was right in front of me now, towering over my trembling body. I was so small compared to it, so helpless. Oh, I'm going to enjoy this. It chuckled, its laughter chilling me to my core. And then, it tore into me. My vision faded, slipping into darkness. Knock! I jolted awake, screaming until my throat burned, the sound echoing in my ears even after my voice gave out. What was going on? My chest heaved as I tried to steady my breathing, but my thoughts were a jumbled mess. My heart thundered, and it was hard to think past the pounding in my head. Knock! No, not again. Knock! This couldn't be real. It had to be another nightmare. It had to be. Knock! I looked around, and everything seemed to melt away into shadows. My gaze fixed on my bedroom door. Knock! That awful knocking, the same knocking that had haunted me at the front door, then in the hallway, was now coming from inside my bedroom. Was there nowhere safe? Was I trapped in this nightmare, doomed to live it over and over again? But then I noticed something. The knocking, it had changed again. My ears strained to catch the pattern. Knock! Yes, it was different. At the front door, it had been 3 knocks with a 3-second pause. At the hallway door, it was 2 knocks with a 2-second pause. Now it was just 1 single knock, followed by a second of silence. Knock! The sound was louder, sharper, as though it were mocking me, confirming a horrifying thought creeping into my mind. 3, 2, 1, and then 0, I whispered to myself. But what did 0 mean? I didn't want to find out. Knock! I felt powerless, completely at its mercy. The creature had said it itself. There was nothing I could do to stop it. I was no match for whatever it was. Knock! Frantically, I scanned my room for an escape. Not a weapon this time, there was no fighting it. I needed a way out, a way to get as far from it as possible. Knock! My eyes landed on the window. The same window I'd nearly fallen out of earlier was now my only hope. It was risky, maybe suicidal, but it was all I had. Knock! I scrambled out of bed and rushed to the window, looking down into the darkness below. I couldn't see the ground, but I knew it was a long way down. A fall like this could easily break a bone. Or worse. But what choice did I have? Knock! I steadied myself, taking a shaky breath. My whole body trembled as I climbed onto the windowsill. The cold night air bit at my skin, and fear clawed at my resolve. With one last glance back at the room, I let go and leapt into the void. The air rushed past me, sharp and biting, as gravity took over. For a moment, doubt crept in. Had I made the right choice? Was I really escaping? Or was this just another way to meet my end? But no, I was sure of it. Whatever awaited me outside had to be better than what was behind that door. And yet, knock, something was wrong. How long had I been falling? It felt endless, like time had stretched into something unnatural. Knock, the sound followed me, relentless. Why could I still hear it? I was falling, plunging into the abyss, and yet the knocking was there, louder than ever. Knock! I tumbled through the darkness, spinning out of control, my mind struggling to comprehend what was happening. There was no ground, no end to the fall, only that sound. Knock! But that knocking, that cursed, relentless sound, kept coming. It gnawed at my mind, louder with each passing second, mocking me as I tumbled endlessly through the void. I had no sense of time or distance, just the awful feeling of falling, of being trapped in an eternal descent. Then, after what felt like forever, I hit the ground. The impact was brutal. My body slammed against something solid, and the pain was sharp and immediate. It was almost a relief, though, something real, something to break the maddening uncertainty of the fall. Knock! Even then, the knocking didn't stop. It didn't fade or falter. It stayed there, steady, relentless, and loud, echoing in my ears like a sick joke. Knock! I forced my eyes open through the haze of pain, and there it was again. The creature. Its terrible form loomed over me, its black, unnatural shape pulling all the light out of the air. It bent down toward me, preparing to do what it had done before. And then darkness. My vision failed, and everything went black. I don't know if anyone is reading this now. My Wi-Fi is gone. My cell service is dead, and outside my window, it's always dark. I don't even know if there's anyone left alive to read this, or if there was anyone here to begin with. It's always 3:15. The clock never moves, and I never grow tired or hungry. It's like I'm frozen in time, stuck in this terrible, endless moment. I've tried escaping, but there's nothing out there. No people, no houses, just a vast, empty void. I haven't seen a single sign of life. Am I the only one left? Or was I always the only one here? Still, I hope someone finds this. Maybe you're out there, maybe you're not. My name is Gabriel Morandi. I live in West California. Writing this down is the only thing keeping me from losing my mind completely. My phone battery is dying. Soon, I'll be left alone in the darkness, with nothing to distract me. But the worst part isn't the darkness or the emptiness or even the thought of being utterly alone. No, the worst part is the sound. Because now, the knocking, it's coming from under my bed. Knock.